Welcome to the deep dive.
Hmm.
Today we're tackling something pretty fundamental, negotiation.
Yeah.
It crops up everywhere, right? Job offers, that cable bill.
Pretty much daily. Yeah.
Exactly. And specifically, we're looking at how you can, well, get what you want, even when you feel like you've got zero power, sort of leveling the playing field.
Yeah. And what's really interesting, I think, is shifting how we even think about negotiation. It's not always about who actually has the most leverage, objectively speaking.
Okay.
We're going to explore this idea that you don't need leverage to win. You need theater. It's more about, shaping perceptions strategically.
I like that. Performance.
Exactly. We'll dive into some really practical techniques, things you can actually do to kind of craft that performance.
Right. So by the end of this deep dive, you should have a handle on how to deal with those, let's face it, often disappointing lowball offers. We've got this thing called the Russian doll tactic for that. We'll also look at smart ways to handle ultimatums without just folding, and how to actually use time to your advantage, even when you're feeling the pressure.
And we actually have a great story to kick things off from a listener. It fits perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, someone told us they boosted their salary offer by like 20% just by pretending they had misheard the first number.
Wow, 20% just from
Just from that. So yeah, we're definitely going to unpack how that works, how a simple misunderstanding can make such a difference.
Okay, fascinating. Let's get into the first big one then, the flinch. The core idea sounds simple, but it's tricky, isn't it? Never accept the first offer.
It's surprisingly hard. Your instinct is often just to, engage with it, maybe even say yes if it's close.
Yeah, relief, maybe.
Right. But that first number, it does this thing called anchoring. It just sets a baseline in your head, and suddenly everything revolves around that number. The flinch is designed to immediately say, nope, that anchor's in the wrong place.
Okay, so how does it work? You said it's got layers.
Yeah. First, there's the physical bit. Just a noticeable pause, a beat. Maybe a slight frown, nothing too dramatic. It's nonverbal, but it sends a clear signal.
Signal being not thrilled.
Exactly. Not thrilled, or that's unexpected. That little bit of nonverbal feedback, it works wonders. It can make the other person slightly uncomfortable.
Makes them second guess.
Yeah, maybe justify their offer, and you haven't even said anything yet.
Okay, so the pause, the look, then what?
Then the verbal part. Keep it short. Something like, that's quite a bit lower than I was anticipating based on the market. And then this is key silence.
Stop talking.
Stop talking. Let it hang there. The pressure flips back to them. They feel the need to fill that silence.
That silence can feel really long when you're the one waiting, right?
Oh, yeah. Especially if they expected you to just accept or start haggling immediately. It forces them to think, okay, maybe that was too low.
All right, now the advanced version, the misheard number trick. This is the listener story one.
This is it. So they give you the number, say $80,000. You pause, maybe do the little frown, and then you say, sorry, just to confirm, did you say $75,000? You repeat it back, but slightly lower.
Okay. So you're not rejecting it outright.
But you're clearly signaling it's way off your mark. It's less confrontational than saying, that's too low. Plus, it makes them repeat their original offer, which gives you another moment to read them. It's like saying, we're not even in the same ballpark yet. Very subtle.
Okay, let's try a quick example. Say, I'm doing some consulting, and a client says, our budget's $120 an hour. How do I flinch?
All right, so you hear $120 an hour. First, the pause. Maybe your eyes widen just a fraction, lips tighten for a split second. Then, verbally, $120? Okay, that's actually lower than the typical range for this kind of complexity. And then,
Silence.
silence. Let them respond.
And if I wanted to add the misheard number bit?
You could follow up with, sorry, just wanted to double check. Was that $100 or $120 an hour? That little drop makes the $120 seem even less adequate.
Right. Signals it's really off base without a direct fight. Okay, I get it.
Exactly. Might make them justify it or even nudge it up without you demanding it.
Okay, moving on. The next tactic. The Russian doll concession. What's the big idea here?
Simple rule. Never give something for nothing. Never make a concession for free. Every time you give a little, you should expect to get a little.
Like those nesting dolls, hence the name.
Precisely. You open one doll, make a concession, and there should be something inside for you, a reciprocal move from them. Stops it being just you giving ground.
So how does it work in practice? Step one.
Step one, start with an initial ask that's, well, a bit exaggerated, maybe more than you realistically expect to get. If you're talking payment terms, maybe you say, Standard is 60% upfront for projects like this.
Even if you'd be happy with, say, 40%.
Exactly. That high start does two things. One, it gives you room to concede later, which makes you look flexible. Two, when you do come down, they feel like they've really won something, even if you land right where you wanted.
Okay, so you ask high. Then step 2.
Step 2 is where you reluctantly move towards your real goal. So maybe after some discussion, you say, okay, look, I understand budget flow can be tricky. Maybe we could do 40% up front, just to show, mutual commitment here. The key is that reluctance. Don't make it seem easy.
Got it. Show it's a bit painful for you.
Yeah, it adds value to your concession. It wasn't just given away.
And the crucial bit, step 3.
This is the heart of it. Always ask for something in return when you make that concession. Don't just say, okay, 40%. Say, all right, if we can agree on 40% up front, could we then maybe adjust the final delivery date by, say, a week, just to ensure we have adequate QA time?
The trade-off. The get for your give.
Exactly. You link them. Your concession isn't free. It buys you something you want. It sets a precedent. We trade. We don't just take turns giving things up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Prevents that slippery slope. You mentioned a shame file. What's that about?
Yeah, well, it's just, thinking back to those times, maybe we didn't negotiate well, we gave in too fast, didn't ask for anything back, and felt rubbish about it later.
We've all been there.
Right. Remembering that feeling can be a pretty good motivator to actually use these techniques next time. It highlights what you lose by not being assertive.
Okay, good point. Now, what about situations where you genuinely feel weak? Like you don't really have a good alternative if this deal falls through. Let's talk about the Batatian bluff. Batati aim beam.
Best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Basically, your plan B, what you'll do if you walk away. But yeah, what if your plan B is, well, not great?
That's where the theater comes back in.
Absolutely. Even with a weak Bay TNA, you can create the impression of having better options. And perception, as we said, can be everything.
Okay, so how do you bluff? Tactic 1.
Tactic 1. Gently hint at another offer. You don't have to lie outright, but you can frame it carefully. Something like, well, I am looking at another opportunity that offers a slightly different package, but honestly, I'm really excited about the potential here with you.
So you mention it, but then immediately soften it by saying you prefer this deal.
Exactly. Plants the seed, I have options, but does it gently, less like a threat, more like context.
Okay. Tactic 2.
Tactic 2 involves mentioning standard procedures or company policy, things that sound firm but might have flex. Like normally our contracts require a 90-day notice period, but let's talk about what might work for this specific situation.
Right, sounds official, like it's out of your hands.
But you immediately signal you're willing to try and bend those rules.
Right.
It uses the authority of procedure but keeps the door open.
Makes sense. And you had a pro tip.
Yeah, this one's even more indirect. Casually mention alternatives that other people on your side were keen on. Like, my finance team was really pushing for vendor X because of their payment terms, but I felt your approach was a better long-term fit.
So it's not your alternative, but the idea of alternatives is still there.
Precisely. It introduces competition without you directly claiming another offer. Subtle pressure.
And you suggested an exercise for this.
Yeah, try actually scripting out your BATNA, even if it's just staying put in your current job for a salary negotiation. Think about how you'd phrase having potential alternatives or things you could explore. Just doing that prep work boosts your confidence.
Makes you sound more convincing, even if it's a bit of a performance.
Definitely. Preparation helps sell the performance.
Okay, let's shift gears to time. How can time itself be a weapon? Talk about time warping.
Right. Time isn't just neutral background, it's a resource. And controlling the pace of the negotiation can give you a real edge, even if you're the one feeling rushed.
So how do you warp time? Delay tactics.
Yep, that's one way. Even if you're ready to decide, just ask for time.
Wow.
Okay, thanks for that. I just need to run these numbers by my partner and circle back tomorrow. Buys you breathing room, lets you think, maybe makes them a bit anxious.
Slowing things down to regain control.
Especially if you feel pressured. A polite pause, let me review this, puts you back in the driver's seat. Stops you making rushed mistakes.
What about the other way? Speeding things up.
The urgency hack. Creating deadlines, sometimes artificial ones. The classic, this price is only good until Friday.
Even if it's not strictly true. Ethically.
Well, yeah, you need to be careful there, maintain integrity. But understanding the psychology is key. People react to scarcity and deadlines. Fear of missing out is powerful.
FOMO in negotiation. Okay.
Yeah.
What about a silent deadline?
This is more subtle, implying a deadline without stating consequences. We were hoping to finalize things by end of month, as that ties into our Q3 planning. You let them fill in the blanks about why that date matters.
They might imagine worse consequences than reality.
Could be. The ambiguity works for you. Creates pressure for them to meet your unspoken schedule.
And the psychology behind all this time stuff.
It taps into loss aversion. People generally hate losing a potential deal more than they value gaining slightly better terms. The threat of the deal expiring or time running out, that fear of loss is a big motivator.
Got it. Use the clock, or the perception of the clock.
Exactly.
Okay, final technique. The Columbo method. It sounds fun. Like the detective.
Precisely. It's about playing, well, maybe not dumb, but a bit naive or confused, disarming them to get information and control.
How does playing naive help?
It lowers their guard. If they think you're a bit lost, they might over-explain or reveal things they wouldn't if they saw you as a sharp adversary.
So step 1 is asking basic questions.
Yeah, seemingly simple, almost stupid questions. Sorry, could you just walk me through that again? Why is that particular clause standard? Or help me understand the thinking behind that pricing tier.
What does that achieve?
Forces them to justify themselves, explain their logic. And in doing so, they might reveal weaknesses, assumptions, areas where they could bend but haven't said so. Plus, it buys you time to think while they're talking.
Okay, so ask simple questions. Step 2 is just listen.
Yep. Let them talk. The more they explain, the more chance they'll slip up, contradict themselves, or reveal something useful. You're just absorbing, noting inconsistencies.
And then comes the
Yeah.
the killer move.
Maybe the gotcha moment, yeah. You frame your follow-up questions against objective standards. After they've explained their reasoning, you say, interesting. How does that approach generally compare with typical industry practice in this area?
Brings in an external benchmark. Makes them justify why they're different, if they are.
Right. It shows you've done some homework, you're not totally naive, and puts pressure on them to align with norms or explain why they don't.
And you mentioned this works well with certain personality types.
Yeah, the pro tip is it can be super effective with people who are maybe a bit arrogant or dismissive. Because your apparent confusion plays into their sense of superiority. They get comfortable, maybe a bit careless, and spill more beans than they otherwise would.
They underestimate you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Their overconfidence becomes your advantage.
Okay, so wrapping this all up then. It really feels like the big takeaway is that negotiation, especially when you feel outgunned, isn't about raw power as much as it's about performance, strategy.
I think that's right. It's the art of perception, strategic maneuvering. These things we talked about, the flinch, Russian doll, BATNA bluff, time warping, Columbo, they're practical tools to influence how the game plays out.
They give you levers, even when you don't think you have any.
Yeah, it's about understanding the psychology, the undercurrents, and using smart tactics to nudge things your way.
Okay, so your mission, should you choose to accept it, we want you to try these out.
Yeah, get your hands dirty.
First, try the flinch. Next time there's a small, unexpected price bump, or maybe coffee, whatever, just try that pause, the slight frown, see what happens. It's low stakes.
Good practice.
Second, think about a negotiation you have coming up, even a small one. Try to map out a Russian doll strategy. What's your ambitious first ask? What's your real goal? And crucially, what will you ask for in return when you concede?
Doing these little experiments really helps build the muscle memory and the confidence. See how it feels in the real world.
Definitely. Now, next time on the deep dive, we're shifting focus a bit, looking at the nonverbal stuff. Body language hacks for hybrid meetings. So more practical influence tips coming your way.
Should be interesting. That hybrid environment adds new layers.
For sure. Until then, maybe think about this. The real art might be negotiating in a way that makes the other side feel like they're winning, even while you're subtly guiding things.
Ooh, I like that. The illusion of their victory while you shape the outcome. That's advanced theater right there.
Right. And hey, one more thing we put together, a little bonus guy this week. 3 contract clauses that scream, "Don't mess with me," if that sounds useful.
Ooh, strong title.
Yeah. Just shoot us a DM at the Deep Dive Podcast on your social media platform of choice, and we'll send it over.
You know, I think why these tactics resonate is they're so actionable. It's not just high-level theory. It's scripts. It's moves you can make.
Yeah. Demystifies it a bit. Shows that strategy can beat raw power sometimes.
Yeah.
And it follows on nicely from some of our earlier chats about influence, doesn't it?
Definitely. And looking ahead, we're kicking around ideas like how to sound confident when you're not, which seems relevant.
Always relevant.
And maybe something on the dark art of corporate jargon, when to use it, when to, avoid it like the plague.
Huh. Yes. And hey, if you want something maybe a bit more gritty, we could maybe do salary negotiation fails or client horror stories sometime. Let us know what you'd find interesting.
Yeah, feedback's always welcome. Tells us what rabbit holes to dive down next.